Intermolecular forces are attractive forces between molecules, and these have tremendous impact on how biomolecules interact, as we'll see later in this chapter. And we're going to look at several different intermolecular forces. We're going to start with the most ubiquitous, which is the London force, and every single molecule has a London force attractive ability. So London forces occur whenever electrons become unevenly distributed over a molecule surface. And since all molecules have electrons, all molecules will have London force. So what happens when the electrons are unevenly distributed is there will be more electrons in one part of the molecule, less electrons on the other. Where there are less electrons, a partial positive charge will form, and where there are more electrons, there will be a partial negative. And this separation of charge is known as a dipole. So let's look at this graphic and a very simple example of London, or London dispersion force as it's also known. And let's look at this top atom here of neon. Two neon atoms here both have 10 electrons, and at any given moment the 10 electrons in this neon may be sort of gathered together or more in one place, and when that happens there will be a partial negative and a partial positive on this atom due to this unequal distribution, because electrons are always moving. And electrons in this neon atom that is nearby will be attracted to this partial positive charge and migrate over to the side of the atom that is closest to this partial positive. And so when that happens, this neon atom has a partial negative where the electrons have migrated to, and then has a partial positive where there are less electrons. So this is known as an induced instantaneous dipole. It does not last very long, but the more electrons that are in a molecule, the stronger this force is, and it can be very substantial if there are many electrons. So all compounds exhibit London forces, but these are the only attractive force, only intermolecular force in which non-polar molecules participate. So that's going to be super important to know. Hydrocarbons are non-polar molecules, so they will only engage in London forces. And as we saw in that graphic, induced dipole and dispersion force, or London dispersion, are other ways to describe London forces. And we'll see later in this chapter that non-polar molecules that only exhibit London forces are also known as hydrophobic.